The bells of St. Peter's Basilica toll, not for celebration, but for mourning. Pope Francis is gone. And now, a centuries-old ritual quietly awakens. It is a moment the Church prepares for, but never desires. The Vicar of Christ has drawn his final breath, and with it ends one pontificate and begins the solemn transition to the next. What follows is not chaos, but order, not improvisation, but precision, woven into the very fabric of the Church for nearly 2 millennia. This is what the world doesn't often see. 10 sacred and political acts that unfold from the very instant the Pope dies, each one rooted in canon law shaped by apostolic tradition and carried out beneath the gaze of heaven and the eyes of the world. The destruction of the fisherman's ring, the sealing of the apostolic palace, the ancient Novem Diales, 9 days of mourning and masses for the dead. And then the most secretive gathering in all of Catholicism, the Conclave. This is not merely pageantry. It is a passage from death to resurrection, from earthly reign to eternal judgment, from one pontiff to another. Every movement, every moment is steeped in purpose. This is what happens when a pope dies. This is From Death to Conclave, a journey through the heart of the Church in her most solemn hour. Act 1, Confirmation of Death. It begins not with headlines, but with silence. Behind the walls of the Apostolic Palace or the papal residence, wherever the Holy Father breathes his last, the most solemn duty of the Church awakens. The man who steps forward is not a doctor nor a cardinal elector. He is the Camerlengo of the Holy Roman Church, a role forged centuries ago for this very moment. Currently, that responsibility rests with Cardinal Kevin Farrell. It is his task to confirm, without doubt, that the Pope is truly dead. Tradition once dictated that he would gently call the Pope's baptismal name 3 times: Jorge Mario, Jorge Mario, Jorge Mario. When there is no answer, the room falls still. He then declares the phrase that begins it all: the Pope is truly dead. At that moment, the office of the papacy becomes sede vacante. The seat of Peter is empty. The Camerlengo then performs one of the most symbolic acts in the Church. The ring of the fisherman, the Pope's personal seal, is retrieved. Once worn to sign decrees and blessings, it is now a relic of a finished pontificate. The death of a pope has been confirmed not only by breath, but by symbol, law, and witness. Now, the gates of transition open. Act 2, Destruction of the Fisherman's Ring. It is not merely a ring, it is the fisherman's ring, a gold seal engraved with the image of St. Peter casting his net into the sea. For centuries, it has served as the personal emblem of the Pope, a mark of his authority, and a seal for the most sacred documents of the Church. But once death is confirmed, that authority must not linger, not even symbolically. In a private and carefully witnessed ceremony, the Camerlengo retrieves the ring and presents it for its final act. A silver hammer, kept for this purpose alone, is brought forward. With solemn precision, the ring is struck, once, then again. Its face is defaced, no longer capable of sealing edicts or letters. This ritual is more than symbolism. It is a safeguard to prevent forgeries, to ensure that no one, not even a trusted insider, might issue decrees in the Pope's name after his death. The destruction of the ring also has roots deep in Catholic tradition. In earlier centuries, popes were sovereign monarchs. The ring, like a royal signet, represented not only spiritual authority, but civil power. To destroy it was to close the book on one reign before another could begin. And so, with a few deliberate blows, the ring is rendered useless. The successor of Peter has returned to dust, and his seal follows him into history. Now the Church prepares to mourn and to watch. Act 3. Papal apartment is sealed. With the Pope's death confirmed and his ring destroyed, the Church now turns to secure his earthly affairs. The Apostolic Palace, or the residence where the Holy Father spent his final days, becomes the center of attention. At the heart of this solemn procedure lies an ancient and unmistakable symbol, sede vacante, the empty seat of Peter. It means that the chair of St. Peter now stands vacant, and until a new pope is chosen, no decisions of governance may be made in his name. To protect the dignity of this pause and the integrity of the transition, the papal apartment is sealed. It is a joint operation. Vatican security officials, members of the Swiss Guard, and the Camerlengo himself all oversee the procedure. Doors are locked, windows are secured. No one, not even a cardinal, may enter without explicit permission. Inside those rooms are not just private belongings, but sensitive documents, letters, notes, instructions, and state secrets. Some are spiritual, others deeply political. Everything is inventoried, guarded, and placed under lock and key. This isn't merely for protection, it is a declaration. The Pope's reign has ended. Until a new shepherd is chosen, the Church must wait, must pause. This sacred stillness echoes through the halls of the Vatican. A world awaits the next breath of leadership. But for now, the door is closed. Act 4. Announcement to the world. Though the rituals begin in silence, the world cannot remain unaware for long. When a pope dies, it must be proclaimed formally, clearly, and without delay. Once the death has been confirmed and the papal apartment sealed, the Holy See press office issues an official statement. Often brief, always measured. The message is delivered in Latin and then translated across every major language. It is not spoken first from the pulpit or the balcony, but typed, distributed to media outlets, printed on Vatican stationery, and placed in the Apostolic Palace's press corridor for the world to see. The words are simple, but weighty. The Holy Father, Pope Francis, passed away on Easter Monday. A single sentence signals the end of a pontificate and the beginning of mourning. Across Rome, the bells begin to toll. From St. Peter's to the smallest parish chapel, bronze echoes fill the air, not of celebration, but of sorrow. A shepherd has gone home. As Catholics across the globe turn to their televisions, phones, and radios, another symbol often appears, one that is frequently misunderstood: the smoke from the Sistine Chapel chimney. But let us be clear, no smoke rises when a pope dies. Black smoke and white smoke are not part of the death rituals. They are signals used only during the conclave to announce whether a new pope has been elected. Yet still, myths persist. Tourists gather, eyes fixed on a chimney that will remain cold for now. What they are witnessing instead is the calm before the conclave. The Church, though ancient, does not rush. The world now knows the Pope has died. But before it can welcome another, it must first mourn the one who's gone. Act 5. 9 Days of Mourning, Novem Diales. Once the announcement has reached the world, the Church does not immediately move toward election. She pauses, she prays, she weeps. What follows is a 9-day period of mourning known as the Novem Diales, from the Latin word novum, meaning 9. It is not merely tradition, it is sacred rhythm. Each day, a solemn requiem mass is celebrated inside St. Peter's Basilica. Cardinals, bishops, clergy, religious, and laity from around the world gather beneath the great dome, united in grief and hope. The Pope's body, dressed in simple liturgical vestments, is placed before the altar. His fisherman's ring gone, his earthly authority surrendered, he now lies not as a ruler, but as a servant returned to God. Candles flicker, chant rises. The liturgy swells with prayers for mercy, judgment, and eternal rest. On the 3rd, 5th, and 9th day, these masses are especially profound. The 9th day, in particular, marks the official closure of the public mourning period. But even before that, the Basilica sees millions, pilgrims, dignitaries, fellow Christians, filing past the Pope's body in a steady stream of reverent silence. These days are not empty ritual. They are the Church breathing with her people, grieving, remembering, surrendering. When Pope John Paul II died in 2005, over 4 million mourners descended upon Rome. For Pope Benedict XVI, the rites were quieter, but just as deliberate. Each day of the Novem Dialas became an echo of the faith these men had lived and the legacy they left behind. And now, for Pope Francis, the Church enters this rhythm again. For 9 days, the heart of Catholicism slows, not to stall, but to prepare, because after mourning comes decision, and the world will soon look toward the Sistine Chapel. Act 6, public viewing and lying in state. When the Pope dies, his earthly journey may end, but for the faithful, their pilgrimage has only just begun. After the initial rites of mourning, the Pope's body is prepared with meticulous care. Not embalmed, but reverently treated according to Church tradition, he is vested in the sacred garments of his office, a white cassock, a red mozzetta, and a gold-embroidered stole draped across his chest. On his feet, the red papal shoes, symbolizing martyrdom and the blood of Christ. There is no crown, no throne, only a simple rosary placed in his hands, and the serene expression of a shepherd who has laid down his life for his flock. Then begins the lying in state. The body is moved to St. Peter's Basilica, placed beneath the baldachin, the great bronze canopy of the high altar. There, surrounded by candles and the soft murmur of prayer, the Pope rests in view of the world. The great doors open, and the line begins. Millions arrive, from elderly nuns in wheelchairs to barefoot pilgrims from faraway villages. Heads of state and global dignitaries arrive quietly, many without announcement. Some cross themselves, others simply bow, all walk in silence. For hours, days, even through the night, the queue stretches beyond the colonnades of St. Peter's Square, down the Via della Conciliazione, and into the heart of Rome. It is a moment that defies language. The leader of 1.3 billion Catholics lies at rest, not on a golden throne, but in the embrace of the people he served. The Church allows the world to grieve with her, and in this sacred pause, where incense rises and footsteps echo through the basilica, one truth becomes clear: the Pope may be gone, but the faith he carried remains. Act 7, Papal Funeral Mass. After days of mourning, prayer, and public farewell, the Church gathers once more, this time for the final liturgy. The Papal Funeral Mass is not simply a farewell, it is a theological proclamation that the Pope, once the servant of servants, now stands before the judgment seat of God. Presiding over this ancient rite is the Dean of the College of Cardinals, the most senior cardinal bishop. In the absence of a reigning pontiff, it is he who leads the Church in its most sacred farewell. In this case, it is Cardinal Giovanni Battista Re, a man formed by decades of Vatican service. The Mass is celebrated in Latin, the Church's mother tongue. Sacred hymns echo beneath the dome of St. Peter's, the air thick with incense, rising like prayer toward heaven. The Gospel is proclaimed. The homily speaks not of policy or legacy, but of resurrection, mercy, and the hope of eternal life. Then comes the moment that stirs even the most stoic hearts, the preparation of the triple coffin. It is a tradition unique to papal funerals, rich in meaning, layered in symbolism. First, the Pope's body is placed in a coffin made of cypress wood, a sign of simplicity and humility. Inside are placed a few sacred items, a white pallium, medals from his pontificate, and a sealed document summarizing his life and works called the Rogito. This coffin is then sealed and placed within a second, a zinc coffin for preservation and protection. Finally, both are enclosed in a third, a coffin of oak, solemn and strong. The names and dates of his papacy are engraved. A cross is etched above his heart, and with prayer the coffin is sealed shut, never to be opened again. As the Mass concludes, the coffin is carried out, not with fanfare, but with reverence. The Church does not applaud. She does not weep aloud. She walks beside her Pope, one last time, down into the Vatican grottos, where popes before him lie buried. His body is placed in a simple crypt beneath the basilica he once called home. And just like that, the final chapter of his earthly life is closed. But the Church does not rest. For now begins the search for a new shepherd. Act 8. Temporary leadership, the Camerlengo. With the Pope laid to rest and the world still cloaked in mourning, the Church enters a rare and delicate moment. Sede vacante. The seat of Peter stands vacant. During this interregnum, when there is no reigning pontiff, the Church must continue to function, but not to rule. And at the center of this careful balance stands one man, the Camerlengo of the Holy Roman Church. Currently, that responsibility belongs to Cardinal Kevin Farrell. His role is not pastoral, but administrative. He does not teach, he does not govern spiritually, he preserves. He safeguards the Church's temporal affairs until the next Pope is elected. Under canon law, the Camerlengo assumes limited but critical powers. He oversees the day-to-day operations of the Vatican. He manages the Holy See's finances, supervises Vatican City State, and ensures no document is issued in the late Pope's name. He organizes the burial, prepares the Sistine Chapel for Conclave, and communicates with the College of Cardinals. But there are strict boundaries. The Camerlengo cannot make decisions that belong solely to the Pope. He may not alter doctrine, appoint bishops, or issue encyclicals. He is not the Church's ruler, but her steward. To ensure transparency, the Camerlengo is assisted by 3 senior cardinals known as the Particular Congregation, who rotate every 3 days until the conclave begins. Together, they guide the Church through this period of stillness, ensuring the transition is orderly, sacred, and free of scandal. Even within the Vatican walls, this time feels different. No papal audiences, no weekly angelus, no speeches from the balcony, only silence and preparation. Until the white smoke rises, the Camerlengo watches over a church without a shepherd, waiting for the keys of Peter to be handed once more. Act 9. Conclave preparation. As the mourning fades and the prayers settle into silence, the most sacred political event in the Catholic Church begins to stir. The conclave. It is not rushed. The Church allows time for reflection, travel, and grace. But as the 9th day of mourning concludes, a message is sent out, quiet but urgent. All cardinals of the Holy Roman Church under the age of 80 are summoned to Rome. They are known as the cardinal electors, and they alone hold the authority to choose the next successor of Peter. From every continent they come, princes of the Church, speaking different languages, bearing different customs, yet united in one faith. Some arrive quietly, others under public scrutiny. All carry the weight of the world's expectations and the burden of divine responsibility. Their destination is not a grand stage, but a chapel, the Sistine Chapel. Before they enter, the chapel is sealed and swept for surveillance. Technology has no place here, no phones, no recordings, no transmissions. Even the smallest attempt to breach the sacred silence is met with the Church's most severe penalties. The area is locked down by Vatican security and specialized technicians. Hidden microphones are searched for. Communication jammers are activated. The room that houses Michelangelo's masterpiece becomes a fortress of secrecy. Then, before all begins, the cardinals are led into the Pauline Chapel, where they celebrate the Mass pro elegendo Romano Pontifice, Mass for the election of the Roman Pontiff. Afterward, they process into the Sistine Chapel in absolute silence. One by one, they place their hands on the book of the Gospels and take the oath of secrecy, solemnly swearing, "I promise, pledge, and swear to observe absolute secrecy with regard to all matters in any way related to the election of the Roman pontiff. Violation of this oath is not just a sin, it is an act punishable by automatic excommunication. The doors are closed, the locks turned, the outside world disappears, and now, within the sacred silence of frescoed walls, the future of the Church awaits its next breath. Act 10. The Conclave begins. The doors of the Sistine Chapel close with a quiet finality. Inside, 120 cardinal electors now take their seats beneath the frescoed ceiling, under the watchful eyes of prophets, apostles, and Christ himself, painted by Michelangelo centuries ago. No phones, no advisors, no connection to the outside world, only prayer, discernment, and the heavy silence that accompanies the divine. Each morning and afternoon, the process begins anew. The cardinals cast their votes by hand on slips of paper inscribed with the phrase, "Elego in summum pontificem," I elect as Supreme Pontiff. Each name is written in silence, folded, and dropped into a gilded urn. 3 cardinals then count the ballots aloud. If no candidate receives 2/3 of the vote, the ballots are bound, taken to the stove inside the chapel, and burned with a chemical that produces black smoke. It rises from a chimney above the Sistine Chapel roof, signaling to the world, no pope has been chosen. But when the decision is made, when one name finally gathers the required votes, the ballots are burned again, this time with chemicals that create white smoke. The city holds its breath. The bells of St. Peter's begin to ring, and across the world, millions look toward a single balcony. Inside, the newly elected pope is asked 2 simple questions. Do you accept your canonical election as Supreme Pontiff? And if so, by what name shall you be called? Moments later, the cardinal proto-deacon steps forward onto the central balcony of St. Peter's Basilica and delivers the words that echo through history. Annuntio vobis gaudium magnum, habemus papam. I announce to you a great joy, we have a pope. And then he appears, clad in white, humbled, chosen. A new shepherd steps into history. And the See of Peter is filled once more. From Peter to Francis, the Church has walked an unbroken line, a line not drawn by politics or human power, but by faith, sacrifice, and divine providence. Through wars, reformations, scandals, and renewal, the papal office has endured, not as a throne of kings, but as the chair of a servant, the vicar of Christ. And now, once again, the world watches as heaven and history collide in the heart of the Vatican. The bells have tolled, the ring is broken, the chapel doors have closed, the shepherd has gone home, and the sheep await their next. Who will wear the shoes of the fisherman next? Whose voice will speak from that balcony? Whose hands will bless the world? In this sacred silence between popes, we remember that the Church is never empty. She waits, she prays, she listens for God's whisper through the voice of His chosen. If this moment in Catholic history moved you, if the weight of tradition, mystery, and sacred order stirred something within, subscribe, share, stay with us, because soon the white smoke will rise again.